And this is an overview of the psychology or quality of life. Um, the I'm the author of the book. My name is Joseph Sergi, professor at Virginia Tech, and we're really in the midst of this book review. And let me show you what we've done so far. We finished providing an overview of different parts of the book. We started out with the philosophical foundations, definitions, and measures. We moved on to a different part of the book, which deals with the consequences of happiness. The third part of the book dealt with the objective reality and its effects on happiness, and there's so many topics there. And then we also addressed topics dealing with subjective reality and its effects on happiness. And now we are moving into another part of the book that deals with life domains and their effects on happiness. Okay, to give you a feel of what we're going to be talking about in the next few modules, uh, see that essentially in terms of like people segment their life experiences in terms of different life domains, and we'll be talking about work well-being, residential well-being, material well-being, social, family and marital well-being, health well-being, leisure well-being, spiritual well-being, political and national well-being, environmental well-being, and educational well-being. So again, there's a whole bunch of topics and module, and we'll talk about the research in the context of these different domains. Okay, what we're going to do is before we get into talking about the specific life domains, we want to give the reader a feel for what we call domain dynamics, the psychology that that is involved in the interplay between among these different domains. Um, so I want to start out with the idea that people segment their experiences, their affective experience, meaning their emotions, um, in terms of different life domains. Uh, some of the seminal studies and quality of life studies have looked into a variety of domains. Like in 1976, there were two seminal studies, one by Andrews and Withy, and the other one is Campbell, Converse, and Rogers. And they try to describe how people feel about those different domains of life, and ultimately how that satisfaction, different domains affect their life satisfaction overall. So if you ask a person how do you feel about your life in general, what they do is they kind of reflect on their experiences in those different life domains. So what are those life domains? Well, in the book, I have them listed here. And in terms of the Andrews and Withy domains, they talked about, well, life in the United States today, um, national government, local government, economic situation, community, services and facilities, education, jobs, neighborhood, friends and associate, home, leisure and leisure time activities, family, self, and interpersonal relations. So these were the domains that, in essence, they closely examined, and they provided us essentially a profile of the quality of life of the United States based on how people feel um, in these different life domains. When it comes to the Campbell, Converse, and Rogers study, the domains that they sort of tapped into would be working non-working activities, family life, standard of living, work, marriage, savings and investment, friendships, city or county, housing, amount of education, neighborhood, life in the United States, usefulness of education, health, religion, national government, and organization. That is not to say that these are essentially the only life domains that have been investigated over the many years. So many studies that have looked at so many different life domains. Let's see. We've got, I'm looking at one that deals with emotional and psychological well being, which involves safety, spirituality, happiness, contentment, and freedom from stress. A second one is interpersonal and social relationships that deal with family well being, friendships, intimate relationships, and supportive networks. There's a domain dealing with material well being that include income, financial security, material possessions, savings, and investments, meeting basic needs such as food and shelter. Another domain is personal development, as in competence, educational attainment, purposeful activities, mastery, effectiveness, achievements, and goal attainment. There's another one dealing with physical well being, like in health and wellness, nutrition, physical exercise, sports and recreation, activities related to daily living. There's another domain that deals with social development, such as inclusion in the community, volunteering, activities, charity, neighborhood cohesion, and the like. Civic duties and rights, like such as privacy rights, voting rights, right to due process, right to ownership, ownership of property, and civic responsibilities. On and on. There's so many typologies or taxonomies of life domains that have been um, introduced by many quality of life researchers over the many years. So again, this is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Okay, well, let's talk about some of the theories dealing with this idea of life domains. So the one that seems to be most popular in the quality of life well-being research is what we call the bottom-up spillover theory. The the bottom up spillover theory assumes that there is a satisfaction hierarchy, and the satisfaction hierarchy goes from the very concrete at the very bottom to the very abstract at the very top. At the very bottom, at the very bottom of the pyramid, so to speak, we have satisfaction related to specific life events. So these at the very bottom of the pyramid, they're most concrete, and what they do is they aggregate into life domains. So, you can ask people how they feel about specific event, like for example, their marriage, their promotion, significant life events. And these, the satisfaction related to those life events tend to be subsumed in coherent life domains, such as work life, family life, marital life, community life, financial life, um, cultural life, and so forth. So you can ask people, how do you feel about your family life, or how do you feel about your work life? And you can get a unequivocal answer, because people tend to think in terms of those life domains and how they feel about those life domains. So again, there is quite a bit of evidence to suggest that there is what we call domain satisfaction. So not domain satisfaction is sort of the mid-level part of the satisfaction hierarchy. At the very top of the satisfaction hierarchy is life satisfaction. And again, the notion of a bottom-up spillover is that affect, or positive or negative affect, what it does, um, it trickles up. It trickles up in the satisfaction hierarchy. So satisfaction from the life events trickle up to make up what you call domain satisfaction, and satisfaction from those different domains, how you feel about your life, about your work life, about your family life, and so forth. What they do, these these positive and negative affect, they further trickle up to a life satisfaction type of at the very top of the satisfaction hierarchy pyramid. So when you ask a person, how do you feel about your life? Usually there's a life satisfaction judgment is very much influenced by how people feel about their different life domains, and how they feel about the different life domains ultimately is very much influenced by how they feel about different life events that that contribute to those different domains. This is the essence of the bottom-up spillover theory. And again, it's a very popular theory. It's been used in so many different quality of life studies and well-being types of research. The second, the second theory is what we call horizontal spillover theory. And horizontal spillover theory focuses on, the affect in relation to those different domains, how they kind of spill over from one domain to another. Let me give you an example of this. In IO psychology, there's so much research on what we call work-life balance, or sometimes, translates into work-family conflict, or work-family interference, work-family balance. Again, there's so many um, terms that capture this interface between work and family, plus work and other life domains. But let's say if we focus on the interface or the interplay between work life and family life, how does affect invested in one domain spill over or influence affect in another domain? So again, we can talk about positive spillover or negative spillover. And again, there's so much research in IO psychology as well as quality of life research that tries to get us to understand the nature of the what you call a positive spillover versus a negative spillover, and how to enhance or prevent, or ultimately enhance positive spillover and prevent negative spillover. And talking about negatives, preventing negative spillover, there is, the segmentation theory that really speaks to how people use cognitive strategies to do this, to prevent a negative spillover. Let's say if a person is feeling very distraught about his job, about his work life, and he brings much of that negativity to his home life, of course, that negativity will affect his family life. So how do they go about preventing it? Well, segmentation theory says that people, what they do is they erect borders or barriers between, let's say, between different life domains. In the example that we're using, we're talking about work life and family life. So again, the segmentation theory says, well, you erect that wall, that barrier, that border between the two, and make it less malleable, or less, not malleable, less permeable. Permeable in the sense that, the negative affect is not likely to spill over because there's a wall. The affect in both work life and family life, they're compartmentalized to the point where there is hardly any kind of spillover. This is a behavioral strategy that people use to prevent negative spillover. Another theory that again comes from IO psychology and quality of life research is compensation theory, and that is, it deals again with the interplay between and among the different life domains or domain satisfaction. And um, the idea is that if people are dissatisfied in one specific life domain, like for example, in work life, well, they try to maintain a certain level of life satisfaction. And if they do this, and if they're down and they're feeling very down in a particular life domain, such as work life, they try and compensate by engaging in activities in another life domain and seeking the kind of satisfaction. So they try and build up satisfaction in another life domain to compensate for the dissatisfaction in that domain. Ultimately, by doing so, they maintain a certain level of uh, a certain level of uh, life satisfaction that is acceptable to the person. Um, so, depending on that theory, we're always trying to increase life satisfaction, but we're not necessarily trying to increase it to any kind of a maximal point. There is some sort of an acceptable level, what we call we're always optimizing life satisfaction and not necessarily maximizing it. So we're always trying to maintain that optimal level, and different people, of course, have different thresholds. Well, different um, levels of life satisfaction they seek to maintain. Um, and remember, we talked about personality differences in terms of the set points where some people have, that life satisfaction level that they feel needs to be maintained at a higher level. Other people kind of, have it at a lower level. That's compensation theory. Okay, well, the last theory is balance theory, and this is something that I've been writing about for a while now. And the idea here is that people try to engage themselves in multiple domains and not exclusively in one domain. So they don't put all their eggs in one basket, so to speak. They try to extract satisfaction from multiple domains and not necessarily one or two. So they're spreading themselves in a balanced manner across different life domains because of why? Well, so people, what they do is they try to achieve balance in their lives. So they get involved in family, they get involved in work in work life, they get involved in social life, they have a leisure life, they have a community life, they have a spiritual life, and all of these are important because you can't in any one life domain you can only get so much satisfaction. There is sort of a satisfaction limit that one can extract from a certain life domain, and this is documented by much evidence. Um, so let's say if you're a workaholic, well, you can achieve so much satisfaction only from work life, but up to a certain point, you're not going to be able to feel, feel completely um, fulfilled because, from a human development perspective, we have different needs. We have physical needs, we have social needs, we have security and safety needs, we have esteem needs, we have self-actualization needs, and on and on. And it, if one expects to have the full spectrum of human development needs satisfied from something like work life, well, that's not very likely to happen. Or the same thing with, for example, if a woman who chooses to put all her eggs in the family basket, uh, everything is she extracts whatever satisfaction in life from family life. Well, what happens if something happens to the family? Let's say she goes through an empty nest stage. When the children are out of the house and her husband is off doing his own thing, um, and therefore feels that her her family life is not much of a life. She's not feeling satisfied with her family life. Well, what happened to her life satisfaction? Well, her subjective well-being in this kind of situation would absolutely plummet, and it's very likely that she will feel depressed. And again, uh, much evidence suggests that when a person engages uh, in a single domain and not necessarily multiple domains, they can get their full set of needs satisfied. And of course, that takes a big toll on subjective well being. And that's the essence of balance theory. At least that is one of the principles related to balance theory. It gives the reader a good understanding of, hopefully, a good understanding of the foundation of that theory. Okay, on that note, I think that would be the end of this module. So we'll stop here.